By the time the final weeks of the trial arrived, attention had shifted from evidence and testimony to the human drama that had been quietly unfolding in the shadows of the case. Because while the science and financial trails were compelling, what gripped the public most was the story of Lynn Hernan herself. Her generosity, her trust, and the way her life had been quietly stolen by someone she had welcomed into her home, someone she believed would care for her until the very end. Prosecutors painted a vivid portrait of Hernan's final months, recalling the small changes in her routine, the moments of fatigue that friends had initially shrugged off, and the subtle manipulations that Jesse Kurchevsky employed to make her seem indispensable, to convince Hernan that she was both needed and protected, all while the poison silently built to a fatal crescendo. Experts in elder abuse and criminal psychology weighed in during court explaining how this case exemplified a rare but growing phenomenon: the exploitation of trust combined with unconventional methods of murder in which killers exploit familiarity and everyday items to achieve their goals. Jurors listened as forensic toxicologists walked them through the mechanics of tetrahydrozoline poisoning, describing how the compound disrupts cardiovascular and respiratory function, how repeated small doses can slowly weaken a person's system, and how the subtle symptoms can easily be misinterpreted as age-related decline, stress, or minor illness, which allowed the killer to operate under the radar for weeks or months. Witnesses recounted what they had observed in Hernan's home, from curious changes in behavior to unexplained health issues, painting a picture of a woman whose declining vitality was visible to those who cared enough to notice, but invisible to those who believed her death would be accidental. The financial evidence combined with the toxicology became the central narrative thread of Chapter 9. Demonstrating not only the planning required to execute the crime, but also the cold calculation of a killer who understood how to manipulate appearances to their advantage. Prosecutors emphasized the uniqueness of the weapon and the meticulous nature of the crime, pointing out that the method itself was virtually unheard of, which meant that Jessie had either researched her approach extensively or discovered it through experimentation, underscoring the deliberate premeditation behind every decision. As the defense tried to suggest alternative explanations, suicide, accidental ingestion, or even negligence, they were systematically dismantled by the mounting evidence, leaving jurors with a stark choice: accept a manufactured narrative of self-harm or confront the reality that Hernan had been murdered by someone she trusted implicitly. Media coverage during this phase of the trial amplified every revelation, from the bizarre nature of the weapon to the financial exploitation, feeding a national fascination with a story that combined elements of high-stakes fraud, intimate betrayal, and the kind of clever, almost clinical criminal method that true crime audiences couldn't help but dissect endlessly. The emotional weight of the case was underscored in court by statements from Hernan's family and friends who described her as vibrant, generous, and unsuspecting of danger in her own home, a woman whose life was stolen not by an unknown predator, but by someone she had embraced as family. Analysts and commentators noted that Chapter 9 of this narrative, the trial's emotional and evidentiary climax, offered a rare convergence of human tragedy and forensic ingenuity, a case study in how the ordinary can be weaponized and how trust can be transformed into a deadly liability. The cumulative effect on the jury and the public was overwhelming, creating a sense of inevitability as the story moved toward its conclusion, yet leaving lingering questions about how often similar crimes might go undetected, how many everyday products could be misused in ways we never consider, and how the combination of psychological manipulation, financial exploitation, and unconventional poisoning could create a uniquely chilling modern murder. Chapter 9, in essence, was about reflection on motive, method, and the terrifying reality that even in the safest-seeming environments, danger can exist behind the facade of ordinary life, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, leaving behind a story that would haunt the public imagination for years to come.